Hello, welcome to this presentation on nonprofits and networking. My name is Craig Bideman. I work for University Health Services at UMass Boston. To start, here's a little bit about me. I am from Oregon originally. I got 2 bachelor's degrees from Oregon State University, one in English and one in education. I taught high school for a couple of years and I learned that was not for me. So I ended up going to Massachusetts to go to graduate school. I went to UMass Amherst. So I've been a part of the UMass family ever since I came out here to Massachusetts over 7 years ago, almost 8 years ago now. And I'm really thankful that I've been able to be a part of the UMass Boston family for around just under 5 years. So I'm really glad to be here, really glad to present on this topic, and I really hope that you learn something. First, what's a nonprofit? A nonprofit is an organization dedicated to furthering a particular social cause or advocating for a shared point of view. It is an organization using its surplus of the revenues to further achieve its ultimate objective rather than distributing its income to the organization's shareholders, leaders, or members. I like to start off this presentation with just this little quick snapshot of what a nonprofit organization even looks like before I start diving into kind of the ins and outs of starting your own and running your own and all the things that are encompassed there. And I want to share this because I have a nonprofit of my own. What's great about the nonprofit that I started is that it has taken a lot of time and a lot of effort to be able to get to where we are today. My nonprofit is called The Art of Survival. It is based in Boston, Massachusetts. What we do is we create pieces of art, paintings, whichever, for trauma survivors. Survivors of sexual violence, mental illness, bullying, abuse, any form of trauma, loss. And those people send us their stories. They write their stories out, and then we share their stories along with a piece of art that we've made for them. And that's something that we've been doing for 4 years now. And it's an organization that I believe in fully with all my heart. And it's something that's actually evolved into something that's much more beyond just the art, because now we actually we do a lot of tabling and outreach at concerts and at different sorts of events. We've been able to do a few tours around the country with bands. My partner, Katie Ham, does a lot of this work, a lot of that specific work for the nonprofit, whereas I take care of a lot of the ins and outs of the daily operations. It's not a huge operation. It really is just the 2 of us that run the organization. So it's a much smaller snapshot of what it looks like to run a nonprofit. But I can tell you a few things that I've learned. None of this stuff is easy. It's really hard to just get something started, to get something off the ground. There's a lot of brainstorming that has to happen. There's a lot of planning that has to happen. There's a lot of stakeholders or people who want to buy into your idea that can spread the word, that can help raise money, do all sorts of things. A lot of that stuff is really hard. And in the 4 years that we've been running, it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of trial and error. And it takes just really being tenacious to the point where you're trying your best and trying your hardest to get your cause out there and to get your nonprofit seen, and that your project is spread as well. So it might be slow at first. It was really slow for us to begin with, just because we were trying to get a grasp of what we were actually doing. But once we caught on, we were pushing out stories almost daily. We were making pieces of art nonstop, and we were able to spread a lot of really good information and a lot of powerful stories to share with a lot of people in a very short period of time. And it's actually slowed down a bit over the last year or so. Part of that could be because of our pandemic, but also part of it is we switched to doing a lot more in-person resource sharing and information. So that's a big part of what ended up slowing us down more recently. Um, a big thing that ended up being important for us is learning how to evolve the project, and that's where we moved into the in-person outreach aspect of the project. We felt that it was important for us to go into music spaces, venues, concerts, events, whichever, however you want to term it, um, and give back to the environment that gave us so much. My partner and I are big music goers, and we wanted to educate the music industry and our scene at large with sexual assault prevention information, mental health resources, and all sorts of other good resources that pertain to those things. And that was a really big challenge because we had to do a lot of outreach just to even get able to have those opportunities. And luckily we made some good connections, and we were doing gigs multiple times a week. And then of course Katie had a couple tours that they were able to go on, tabling and sharing information and doing merch for bands for a good part of the first part of last year. So what happens next is you have to be able to think ahead. You need to be comfortable thinking about what's going to come next. So when we started, we were specifically just online video, not video. We made some videos. We were able to spread the word. We were able to get some good stories, some feedback, some information, some good constructive education around what it looks like to spread the word around such difficult topics. And then we moved into the next phases, and being able to evolve is where we were able to have a good approach to thinking about what things needed to happen in what order so that we can actually be successful. And that's actually a really good sticking point of how we were able to be successful in the work that we do, because it took us a minute to get comfortable pushing our project as hard as we did. But once we did, it became second nature for us, and that evolution became pretty natural. Next is bringing others involved, bringing others in and getting them involved. And I say this because you can't do this stuff alone. It's really hard to run a nonprofit on your own. So it's great to get folks who can do website work for you, who can do copy editing for you, who can do outreach with you, who can help in the in-person aspects with you. All of those things are beneficial and helpful. They can also help you raise money, which is super duper important, because in order to be able to do a lot of the things that you want to do with your project, a lot of it's going to be hard to do it all free. It's going to be hard to do it out of your own pocket too, unless you have a wealth of money, unless you have a whole bunch of money, which if you do, give me some of it, please. That would be great. But you have to bring other people in and get them involved as well, so that you can actually have a good amount of effort being put in and helping out your organization to grow stronger and to reach new people. Now, how you can do it. There are a number of ways and a number of things to do that can help you create this nonprofit organization that you're trying to run. A big part of bringing other people in is knowing who you can have help you create things from the ground up. So if you're a good networker, if you're a good person that is comfortable reaching out and connecting with other folks, you're going to have a good time starting things up to begin with. And a good way to do that is to have your mission figured out. Having a mission figured out is super important, because you actually need to know what you're trying to do, who you're trying to serve, and what your focus is going to be for your project. You need to understand where you're coming from and where you need to go, so that you can actually be a successful project. Our mission initially was to help trauma survivors share their stories, share their lessons, and share that knowledge. And we wanted to give back to that community by creating pieces of art from their stories. So our mission was to the serve a population of folks who are um, trauma informed and in need of healing. And that's essentially where we came with our mission. And your mission is also tied to your why. I talk about a why a lot in other talks, but the thing that I bring this up about is you need to know why you're doing this, why you're doing the work that you want to do. Because if you're not in control of why you want to do what you want to do, you're going to likely fail. You need to make sure that you keep track of why you want to do the work that you're doing so that you can actually be a successful project and a successful project runner. Because it's not easy to just fly by the seat of your pants. You need to sit down and plan these things out so that you can actually be educated and make smart moves and recognize why you're doing what you want to do. So take time, even like right now, and pause this if you need to, and think about why you want to start the project you want to start, or be brainstorming a little bit as well. Know your audience. It's important to know who you're trying to reach and why you're trying to reach them and what you're trying to do when you reach them and the types of things that you want to be able to give to them, have them give to you feedback, if you want comments, if you want any sort of networking opportunities with your audience, or if you want surveys done with your audience, or um, any sort of like information gathering from your audience, you need to know who you're trying to reach. You need to make sure that the folks that are in your organization are also trying to engage your audience in any number of ways, through social media, through in-person outreach, any number of ways, networking. It's all going to be super important for the success of your organization. Now, it's important to get in touch with someone who can create good imagery, good brands, be consistent with that brand. If you have someone in-house who's good at doing marketing, design work, my partner is actually able to do that for us. But if you need to reach out to someone, have a professional do it. Have someone who's really solid at branding help you come up with something, because you need something that's going to catch um, catch catch on to the larger population so that you can actually be a successful brand and a successful organization, because it does start with having something that can catch someone's eye. I know that I've been in the grocery store or wherever, and I saw like either like an album cover or a soda or a brand of food, and I was like, oh, just because it caught my eye, I picked it up and I got it just to give it a shot. Someone might be able to give your brand, your company, your project a shot just because of having some good flashy branding that can tie people in, that can bring them in, and you can then have conversations with them and educate them on what you're trying to do. Along with that line, you need to try new things. Doing the same thing over and over again is not necessarily going to be the most successful approach. You need to be able to try out new approaches to the work that you're trying to do so that you don't grow stale, and so that your audience actually stays engaged with the work that you're doing, and making sure that the work that you are doing is meaningful and that folks can see that. Folks can see that the work you're doing is meaningful because they recognize that what you're wanting to do is to continue evolving, continue reaching new folks, and continue being an up-to-date brand. And while you're doing all of that, you need to keep track of money. Be smart with money. Make sure that you are taking control of some sort of spreadsheet, some sort of bookkeeping. There are plenty of ways to keep track of money that comes in and out of your organization, and make sure that any money is being accounted for, just in case you need to report that to anyone. My organization is not large enough to have 501c3 um, uh, acknowledgement, but we do keep track of our money so that we are in control of what we've earned and what we put out. So just make sure that that's something that you have control of, one person or multiple people keeping track of that money along the way. Now, nonprofit networking. I've talked about networking in the past, or in other videos and other presentations, but you doing networking through social media. Now I'm going to do networking across what it looks like doing networking in person, and or through email, or in any number of ways. So first things first, in networking, you have to put yourself out there. You're not going to get anything successful. Nothing's going to be successful if you don't put yourself out there. You need to be proactive. You need to be smart. You need to make sure that what you're doing is spreading the information from your organizational standpoint that is beneficial to your your the worth of your organization and the worth of you as a person, because the way that you represent yourself and the way you represent your organization all is a reflection of each other. So just make sure that you are putting yourself out there and you're being smart when you do so. Connect with people. That's what networking is all about. Connect with as many people as you can. Be smart about it. Make sure that you are being as professional as you can be, or whatever your organization calls for. Make connections with new people. Always be seeking out someone who might be able to help you out. Bring business cards with you. Have your website or social media like already pulled up on your phone if you need to show it to someone, so that you can just be ready to go and share those sorts of things with new people as you meet them. Be intentional with how you network. One of the things that I think this is why I think this is important is it's not necessarily quantity, but it's quality. Having good people around you and having good people in your circles is essential. Having a lot of people can be great, but it's not necessarily going to be, it's like having a lot of friends in general. Some of them are going to be able to come to bat for you at the drop of a hat, but most of them are going to be like, I have my own life going on. So make sure that you're being intentional with who you bring in to your fold and who you bring into helping you grow your organization, because you also want to bring in good, smart, educated people that know what they're doing. And along the way, just making sure that you're being as smart and as methodical about what you're doing as possible. Next is something that the MAP program and UMass Boston in general has asked me to talk about, which is public speaking. This is a very important part of how you present your organization and how you present to really anyone. I've made a pretty good career of my own just doing public speaking around the country. So I feel like this is something that I'm pretty comfortable discussing right now. I can for sure let you know that I have definitely learned a lot over the last few years about what it means to be a better public speaker, and it comes down to 5 things that uh, that I've that I've discovered. The first of those being know your shit. Now, this also could just easily be, be smart, like be educated, know what you're going to be talking about, but honestly, just know your shit. Like, I educate myself, I prepare, I'm planned, I know what I'm going to be talking about. Anytime I go in front of a group of people, I've planned it out. I know what's going to happen, but I'm also like a very lackadaisical, pretty chill presenter. So always also be comfortable with it going with the flow, because something might happen. You might need to, you might get distracted. Someone might say something. You also need to be ready to be on like ready to roll with the punches as it comes your way. And a lot of that comes down to also having a lot of confidence. If you're able to be a confident public speaker or just someone who portrays confidence, you're going to do okay. A part of that doesn't mean just going up there and just talking out of your ass for however long. It mostly just means if you can muster up self-esteem enough, self-worth enough, confidence enough to present on a topic, to present on what you know to be true, and an organization that you care about, and a mission that you truly believe in, you should have the confidence to get up there and be an invigorating public speaker to be able to share that information with folks. Next, project. Be able to speak to the back of the room as much as you can. Being a quiet public speaker is terrible for networking or for getting your information across, because people will just zone out. Be someone who projects and owns a room, owns a space, and makes it your own. That's something that I've learned a lot over the last few years, is just how to maintain the attention of folks by just projecting in a room and being able to explore space. The more that you explore the actual physical space that you are taking up, the better people are going to actually engage with you. So don't just stand behind a podium, walk around a little bit, engage with people, ask them questions, share stories, ask them to share stories, everything like that. Make sure that you're not just standing in one place, because that can make people just kind of like fall asleep as well, or just zone out. And again, know your audience, know who you're talking to, know the people that you're going to be sharing in front of. I've done presentations in front of fully like fraternity men who I was doing a presentation on drinking in college. And that was one of the hardest rooms I ever went into. 400 college men just staring at me, trying to tell them to not drink as much as they normally would. That was really hard. I also went into I did a presentation for an entire sorority that was on leadership in as millennials. So like there's a bunch of different things that you have to adapt and re-educate yourself on, and understand who you're going to be talking to, so that you can be successful, so that you can have a good approach to sharing your information. Last but not least, don't be afraid. Try something. Do something new. Research, see if the thing that you're wanting to do doesn't already exist. If it does, try to put a twist on it. Do something that is going to challenge you. Do something that will be fun. Do something that you care about. Do something that is comfortable but also uncomfortable. Do something that will make you have to think harder. Don't be afraid. Just make sure that you are trying something instead of just sitting on your hands and wishing you had done something. Do it now. And never lose track of your why. Never lose track of why you're wanting to do this work, and you will be successful so long as you do that. I'm done now. That's all I had. If you would like to be in touch with me, go to craig.bideman@umb.edu. Or if you are doing the MAP program, go to tinyurl.com/mapwellness, and you can fill that out to get your credit. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Again, if you'd like to chat with me, craig.bideman@umb.edu, and we can get in touch. Until then, hope you had a good time watching this, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.